Hi, welcome to the House of Sugar Creek. I am Taylor Bradford, the host of this channel, and it is hot in Texas. Can we just put that out on the table? I have been working outside all day. I'm a hot, sweaty mess and grateful to be inside for the moment. But let's dive into this week's episode, which is going to be a behind-the-scenes peek at the process of how I do design work for interior clients. So I offer room refreshes, and I've been working on a project for a client, and this week I will be going over to her home and walking her through my design. So I'm going to show you kind of the behind the scenes look at what it's like for me to create and how I go about coming up with inspiration as far as what is going to go in the home, and just kind of providing some options for the client, kind of not knowing the full scope of what she's willing to invest, and if it's all the things or just a few things. So we're going to dive into what that's like, and I've got some really great news. I recently pitched myself to design a wedding venue. Yes, a wedding venue. So the concept is already there. The architecture has already been done. I believe they're breaking ground soon. But I am the one that is being hired to do the interiors. I am beyond excited. It's like excitement that is beyond containment at this point. And I am at a loss for words, because this is a huge thing for the House of Sugar Creek, and of course I will be documenting all of it, because it's a wedding venue that's coming into my market, and I'm really excited about that. So you will be seeing sneaks and the process and the build and the meetings and all of that. So I'm excited for that journey, which is what prompted this particular episode, to show you what it's like to be one of my clients, to have me come in and either do a full home refresh or to just do a one room refresh. I can do all the way to the shopping for you if you need me to do that. So I'm going to show you what that process is like and kind of walk you through from start to finish, and let's get going. Okay, so this is the home that I am doing a design refresh, and I'm going to pull up some of her interior photos so that we can take a peek at what I'm working with. And that's a look into her kitchen, and it's really dark in there for sure. And then that's me sitting in the dining room and looking into the kitchen. And then this is looking into the dining room, so I'm standing in the kitchen, and then you can see all the way to the living room. And there's a side view. Here's me standing in the corner of the dining room. There's a lot of old character in this home still, but they've added these weird ceilings that probably came in, maybe the 70s when they closed in the front porch. But the hardwoods are stunning. The mantle and the fireplace is stunning. The built-ins, all stunning. So she painted this slate blue when she moved in, and ultimately what I'm working with is I have to keep this sofa that you see here, and it randomly fit perfectly into her space when she moved in. There's a little cubby. And then finally this image. So now you get an idea as to what I am working with. So we're going to clear out all of these photos. So I start each client with a questionnaire because I want to get a sense of their style. So this is her questionnaire, and originally she wanted me to work on her dining room, but ultimately, because of how the house flows, I am actually doing the living room into the dining room and then making some suggestions for the kitchen. She claims her design style to be traditional, contemporary, transitional, Scandinavian, modern, farmhouse. And so I have definitions for each one of these things. And then there's a website that takes you to more information about these individual styles. And I knew she was going to be on the eclectic side, even though that wasn't one of the options, just from having conversations with her. And ultimately what I'm providing for her is kind of a Scandinavian design that leans a little farmhouse, not necessarily modern. Actually the black color is going to be on the modern side. So mostly Scandinavian with a touch of modern farmhouse. And we kind of leave the traditional and the contemporary and the transitional a little to the side. There's some transitional in there because that's where some of the vintage stuff that I am going to encourage her to incorporate. So she finishes filling out the form for me, and then I start working on design. So I had her fill out the form, and now I sit down and work on the concept. And so this is where I design. I design in Canva. It just makes things really easy for me, and I don't have to do a ton of editing when it comes to creating a mood board. So I already have templates in here, and this, for example, was a particular room refresh for somebody that lives in New Jersey, and so you can kind of see the direction we were taking for her. So we were actually doing two different spaces. We were doing her living room, kind of a craft area in her living room / dining room, and then also her bedroom. And you can see I have kind of the room layout and how to make that all function. So for this particular project, I'm going to go ahead and show you the actual design. And there are, 3 pages to this design. One of them is her, let's go ahead and move this guy up. So the first one is living room, the next one is dining room, and then I kind of have an entry room area. So if I go back to the photos, let's see if I can pick the right one. That was definitely not the right one. So this one's okay. So right here in this entryway, actually I know there's another photo. Right here in this entryway, it's kind of like dead space. And we want to kind of make the dead space work with the flow, because that's important right here. So this is just gigantic, open, non-usable space. And so in my design, I actually have something to accommodate for that kind of dead space to actually tie everything together. So this is a little pedestal table. I actually have one of these pedestal tables in my own collection. You can pick this up at Home Depot, and you can refinish it however you want to. My suggestion is to actually have this painted in this gray. It's kind of like a navy, dark navy that leans gray, kind of graphite. It's called Cyberspace from Sherwin-Williams. So painting that cyberspace color and having this area rug underneath it. And my note is to use that pedestal table to display family photos, to be able to show off some tchotchkes, to have a place to drop your keys, or have a couple of magazines, or maybe that's where the mail goes before you're ready to sort through it. So going back to this area, I feel like having something here that's a pedestal of some kind of table. It doesn't have to be the size that is in this actual board, but this actually is a decent size. I'll show it to you in just a second. It's a decent size to use, and it's kind of more like a breakfast style table, the size of it. So it's not I wouldn't ever, in a small space, it would work in a dining room, but it is a smaller pedestal table. So we go back to this. I think that would be a really great, I know that there's another, let's see. Yeah, right here. You see how much, there's just so much dead space. Like, what do you do with it? So anchoring something right here in this middle would be the perfect flow from all the rooms into the hallways, over into the dining room, over into the master, over into the living room, kind of giving it an anchor without actually putting up a wall. So being able to have the flow that you need, but then still ties everything together. So that is the purpose of what you see here. And let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see this rug and this table a little bit more. And this is a color palette I'm using. Southwest, that is definitely not Southwest. Sherwin-Williams Retreat, Sherwin-Williams Bohemian Black, Sherwin-Williams Origami White, and Sherwin-Williams Cyberspace. So you see the Sherwin-Williams Retreat color. This is what I'm actually encouraging her to change in the space first, is paint. Paint can go a long way to elevating and changing a space with very little dollars as far as refinishing or refurbishing or renovating. So she's currently got this slate blue up on her walls right now. So my suggestion is to swap out this color for the retreat color, that green color. It will be a stunning color in the space. It will really tie in the colors of the brick and the colors of the floor and all of the furnishings that I'm suggesting going in. Now, if she wants to go bold, what I'm going to suggest, and she may not go for it, and I'm totally okay, but if she wants to go bold, I'm saying to take this origami white and painting the blue origami white and everything else the retreat color. The reason I say that is she's already got a house. If we go back and look at the outside of her house, it's really hard to tell in this photo because of where the sun is sitting. This house is solid black on the outside. It's modern, it's edgy, but it's still really cozy. And by taking the inside and flip-flopping what you would think would not be normal, it would be a wow factor in this space, especially because of how expansive it is. So I don't know if she's gonna go for it. I'm gonna pitch it to her, but I hope she does. She may not, and that's fine. If she doesn't, we'll fall back and just swap out this blue for the green and leave all of the chair rail and all of that the way it is. And so all we're doing is we're repainting the walls. But if she wants to do bold to match the outside, then I'm going to suggest painting all of the chair rail and everything the retreat color, and then reversing the white, which is that origami color that I'm suggesting, onto the walls themselves, and giving that transition and that whoa when you walk in. And the reason I say that, so we go back to my design board and we click back over here. Her couch is already a white, a creamy white. So we've got white on white on white. I do have it's actually a patterned kind of jute rug as the focal underneath her white sofa. So instead of instead of this teal sofa, we're gonna take that out of the room and we're gonna anchor it down underneath a very bold wooden coffee table. They actually call these a sled coffee table, a sled style. So I want to bring in some elements of that Scandinavian feel with a touch of that modern, which is the metal work, and a touch of farmhouse, which is also the woods and the metal. And so we've got this bold sled style coffee table, and then we've got a softness underneath it. So the sofa is soft, the textiles are soft, and then if you look at her flooring, the flooring is really bold, and so that kind of helps break some of that up. But putting that color directly behind the sofa, if you can imagine putting that color directly behind the sofa, it will help break up the room. So it's not cream against white against cream. It would be the cream against the boldness of the green color, and then the cream on the wall, and then the ceiling also being that green color. So you can see I have some sconces. There is a trick. I do know that she has some weird plugs that probably at some point had sconces because of where the plugs are. If we go back over, you can kind of see there's some kind of a plug over here on this wall. There's also one on another wall. Just the times of when this was built, and I'm sure there was some sort of lamp or something up against the wall and it needed to be plugged in. But you can actually do these kind of pendant lights and do the puck trick, the light puck trick. So you can get a light puck from Home Depot or Lowe's that is battery powered, and you just attach it up where the light goes and you just tap it to turn it on. And some of them have Wi-Fi apps that you can turn them on with your phone. So all you got to do is replace the batteries, and it's still ample amount of light, and it helps break up the space. So I've got these sitting next to each one of the windows in her room, and then I'm bringing in some of the colors that you see here for the space into the pillows, the soft furnishings. And then she has this really beautiful plate wall display. It's a very small trim that kind of juts out. It's not wide enough to do anything other than displaying an old plate or displaying a photo. And so let's dive back into, so you can kind of see it here. It kind of juts out. You can kind of see it here. It's literally the perfect space to be able to showcase some vintage prints, which is where these are coming from. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see some really great sellers on Etsy. Now, none of these are framed. This is just to showcase how and why or how you might display them in a frame. So you're just printing these out at your local printer, and then you're framing them. So we'll have to figure out frames, which we can do at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, and or even through Etsy, or just scouring different antique malls for frames. And so having those displayed down that chair rail, that shelf that sits on top of that chair rail, with these pendants there as well, I think it's going to just elevate the space in a way to just bring the cozy in with the different colors and the textures and the vibes. So that is the direction for the living room. Now let's take a look at the dining room. So because there is, if we go back to the photos, let's go back. So because there is a break to get into the space, we can reverse. So let's say she decides to go bold and does the ceiling in the green, the origami white on the wall, and then the green on all of the wooden elements. except for the actual trim. I wouldn't have her do all of the trim. If that is doable, we may have to do all of the trim based on what I'm staring at right now. Anyways, so let's say she goes bold. Once we get into the dining room, we can flip back. So let's open up a dining room photo. So now all of the walls can be green, and there is no chair rails, so there is no distinguishment. So we can make all the walls green. Now right now they are a creamy white. They kind of match the rest of the door and the trim and all of that. I actually am going to suggest going with a sheer curtain instead of a colored curtain, just to add more light into the room. And so let's go back to the design. So I have a vintage buffet or a sideboard, whatever you want to call it, a vintage buffet or sideboard. Let's go to where we can actually see where that is going to go. So on this vacant wall, it's a very expansive wall. So I want to anchor it with a vintage buffet. I want to paint it black. Actually, our color black is this bohemian black. So I want to paint it in that bohemian black. Let's go back. So bohemian black up against the green wall. So we go back and we're going to display some vintage portraits up on the wall. And because this is such an expansive wall, they have to be substantially large because we want them anchoring where your eyeballs go. So right now she's got a rectangle table. She's not attached to it. She talked about bringing her farm table in. I don't know if it'll fit in the space because I don't know the dimensions of it, but I'm actually going to encourage her to go with a large pedestal table. So now we've got this small pedestal in the front, and now we have a larger pedestal in the dining room on top of a jute rug. So right now the jute rug is a darker jute rug, and if we paint the walls the green color, the Retreat color by Sherwin-Williams, I may need to lighten this jute rug up just a little bit, but we'll just have to see once I'm actually physically in this space. But I do want her to consider a pedestal table, and I think the room itself will anchor this beautifully. We're going to swap out this particular fixture with either a copper or a brass dome pendant light. So we're basically swapping the style. So instead of up, this is very Italian looking. We're going to make this go over and make it be a dome, and it's going to sit on top of this particular table or above it. And I'm going to have her get rid of this bookcase because it just confines the space. It pulls the space in too much, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And she said it's not really functional, so for her, so we're just going to remove it. Just get it out of the space. Then I want to utilize two different style of chairs. I want to utilize, let's zoom in here, a weave chair and also a rattan style chair. So it's two different textures. It's very Scandinavian, it's very farmhouse, it's very eclectic, and it brings the elements of nature in. It's got leather, it's got the wood element, the rattan, and we soften it up with some sheepskin faux rugs that actually can drape on top of the chairs, specifically the rattan ones. I don't think that the waffle weave needs one or the weave chair needs one, but I think to soften the chair up, we toss a couple of these faux sheepskin rugs on top of them. So let's zoom back out. So I think this, once you get it all into this space, I think it's going to be very inviting. She has a large family. She wants to be able to entertain. And I think this is a really great way, especially with the pedestal table and everybody is around and everybody can talk to everybody. So that is the inspiration. And now, so part of my process is, so I have a Pinterest board where I am keeping track of everything. So I have the rugs that I'm suggesting and the pendant lights and a couple different options for the pendant lights. Then I've got some buffets that I found through Etsy. That's going to be an element that we actually go hunting for locally because the shipping alone would just be a nightmare. But I have where we can get some of these furniture pieces that aren't antiques. So here is the weave chair, and then here is the Etsy shop where we can get the prints. Here are a couple of different options for other styled chairs that would be really great in the dining room. But also here is that rattan chair, which can be purchased through Wayfair. Then we have the pillow elements that are seen in the living room. I also have a couple different coffee table ideas. So this is the one that's actually in my drawing. You can see I do have a lighter rug for the, actually that's the rug in the living room. We may actually utilize that rug in the dining room as well, and I'm just realizing I don't have the dining room rug on here. But we have some other coffee table options that I think would really work as well, and then some different pedestal table options. But this is the curtain, the sheer curtain that I was talking about earlier. I think it just softens the room a little bit, but allows the light, which is very, very important. And then here are the curtain rods that a couple influencers really, really like. So here's where I keep track of everything, and this is what I will pass over to the client so they have easy access to their items. Okay, so I want to show you the pedestal table in person. This is the one you can get at Home Depot, and you can paint it yourself or stain it yourself. We actually stained this one. It is literally the perfect size to go in that space. It works in small dining rooms. It's not quite large enough to be a true, like, actual dining room table, I don't think, but I think it would be perfect for what I'm going to recommend her to use it for. Okay, so that is kind of the behind the scenes of what I do for my clients, and I'm really excited to share this design with this particular client this week and get her feedback and see if she likes the direction that I took or what changes she'd like to see. But that is a peek at my design process, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And until next time, if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, I would love for you to do that. On the next screen, you'll see an easy subscribe button. Just click my face and that will get you subscribed. So until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this week. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot. One last thing. If you would like to hire me to do a room refresh for you, I'm going to leave the link down in the description down below for you to click so that you can learn next steps on the process to hire me to do a room refresh for you. So yes, I can totally do that for you. If you're wondering what next steps are, click that link down below.